authorities are still trying to determine how Hollywood legend Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy died.
After decades of living in the shadow of her famous husband, Gene Hackman's ex-wife has finally broken the absolute silence she maintained for years. Once an indispensable part of the Hollywood legend's life, she has decided to lift the veil on the secrets of her tumultuous marriage with Gene Hackman, a renowned star, but also a man with untold secrets. So why did she remain silent for so long? And why, even after Gene's death, did she choose to reveal all the secrets she had kept hidden? Could this silence have concealed things that could never be spoken during their years together? These questions have always intrigued us, but now, we finally have the answers. Number 1. The real life of Hackman. After Gene Hackman's funeral, when all the condolences and tributes poured in for a cinematic legend, his ex-wife, Fay Meltz, decided to break her long-held silence. In a statement that shocked the media, she opened a new chapter in the story of her marriage to her former husband, a story not only filled with love and sacrifice but also with secrets, betrayal, and the dark sides that Gene Hackman had hidden throughout his life. Fay Meltz, who endured years of loneliness in silence, finally decided to reveal what she knew about the man the world admired. She spoke about the pressures Gene faced while living in the spotlight of Hollywood, the prolonged absences from his family, and the irreconcilable conflicts in their married life. These revelations were not accusations but rather painful, honest insights into a man she had loved and once hoped to change. With calmness and determination, Fay gave the public a different perspective on Gene Hackman, the man they had seen through the lens of cinema for so many years. These secrets not only stirred public debate but also made us rethink what we believe to be the truth about the lives of famous stars. Gene Hackman's name is synonymous with the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, but his life did not begin that way. Gene was born on January 30, 1930, in San Bernardino, California. He was born into a family with an unstable income. To add to the difficulties, his parents, Eugene Ezra and Anna, faced many problems in their marriage and, when they could no longer continue, divorced. Gene was only 13 years old at the time. That period was a major shock for the boy, as witnessing the collapse of the home where he was raised almost broke him. After his parents' divorce, Gene moved to Danville, Illinois, to live with his grandmother, who raised him as her own son. She gave him a lot of love, but unfortunately, that love could not erase the impact of his parents' divorce. Even worse, the sudden change turned him into a shy and reserved boy. Gene became a quiet observer, often absorbing everything around him rather than speaking. These traits helped him develop the depth he later brought to his characters. However, the breakdown of his parents' relationship was not the only factor that made him withdrawn. School was another. Gene always felt insecure at school and had a constant sense of being out of place in every class. He only enjoyed theater classes because he was captivated by stories and movies, often dreaming of a bigger life. Gene was not a fan of the small-town environment around him, and the only way to escape was to dream and imagine life beyond. At the age of 16, Gene decided to join the United States Marine Corps, lying about his age to enlist. At the time, no one understood why a shy and quiet boy would choose to join the military, but as he grew older, this decision became one of the best choices he ever made. It gave him discipline, endurance, and a glimpse of the realities of adult life. After 3 years of military service, Gene was honorably discharged in 1951 and returned to the United States. Back home, he decided to study journalism and television production at the University of Illinois. However, it didn't take long for Gene to realize that the traditional education system could not hold his interest for long. Feeling stifled in academia, Gene dropped out and sought new opportunities in the entertainment industry. This decision was not only a turning point in his life but also a testament to his determination and willingness to take risks when faced with life's choices. Gene was not simply a naturally gifted individual but someone who constantly overcame challenges and sought his own path. After leaving school, he decided to move to California to study at the Pasadena Playhouse School of Theater. This was where he learned a great deal about acting, met like-minded friends, and also encountered Dustin Hoffman and Robert Duvall, who would go on to become Hollywood legends. However, his time at Pasadena Playhouse was not a smooth journey. In fact, Gene faced skepticism from the instructors there, who doubted his ability to succeed in the film industry. They even voted him the least likely to succeed in his class. Yet, instead of letting this criticism discourage him, Gene used it as motivation to push himself forward. He had to take on various manual labor jobs to make ends meet. Gene worked as a furniture mover, a truck driver, and even as a hotel security guard. During these years, he lived in near poverty, but he never gave up on his dream of becoming an actor. These early struggles shaped Gene, teaching him that success doesn't come easily and requires perseverance through challenges. While life at the time was far from ideal, these side jobs served as a solid foundation, equipping him to face the greater challenges that lay ahead in his career. His patience during those difficult years kept him from giving up, even when major opportunities seemed out of reach. After leaving the Pasadena Playhouse, Gene Hackman ventured into the Broadway theater scene in New York. Although his first roles were not leading ones, but rather small parts, they provided valuable opportunities to gradually build his reputation. Gene participated in several off-Broadway productions and appeared in television shows like The Defenders and Route 66. These roles garnered him some attention, though they were not yet strong enough to propel him to widespread fame. However, his persistence and refusal to give up eventually led to greater opportunities. Gene began to receive significant attention when he starred in the Broadway play Any Wednesday in 1964, a popular production featuring Sandy Dennis. Less than a year later, the success of this role opened up a major opportunity for Gene Hackman to step into the world of film. Film producers recognized his talent, and this marked the beginning of his film career. His first film role was in Lilith, 1964, a movie featuring Warren Beatty. This role not only served as a stepping stone for Gene's career but also marked the start of a new chapter in his journey as an actor. The major turning point in Gene Hackman's career came in 1967 when he landed the role of Buck Barrow in the film Bonnie and Clyde, a movie that revolutionized the film industry. This pivotal role allowed Hackman to not only showcase his acting talent but also catapulted his name to a new level of recognition. Bonnie and Clyde, directed by Arthur Penn, was a renowned film about the legendary criminal duo Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker. In the movie, Gene Hackman played Buck Barrow, Clyde's brother. Alongside Warren Beatty, who portrayed Clyde, Gene delivered a remarkable and unique performance that captivated audiences and kept them glued to the screen. Gene's performance in Bonnie and Clyde received widespread praise from critics. This role established his name not only among critics but also with audiences, officially opening the door to a successful film career. With this performance, Gene Hackman gained the attention of both the media and the public, ushering in a new era in his career. Moreover, the success of Bonnie and Clyde placed Gene Hackman on the list of Hollywood's most talented and promising actors. Following the success of Bonnie and Clyde, Gene Hackman continued to achieve success in other famous films, building an illustrious cinematic career. However, behind these achievements were ongoing challenges, particularly in his personal life. His marriage to Fay Meltz faced growing tensions and conflicts that became increasingly difficult to navigate. Number 2. The marriage of Gene Hackman and Fay Meltz. The marriage between Gene Hackman and Fay Meltz faced numerous challenges. What began as a love story between a struggling actor and a supportive wife quickly turned into a complicated relationship overshadowed by the pressures of Hollywood. But did Fay know what she was getting into? Why did she leave when things became difficult? Let's explore the reasons. When the couple married in 1956, Hollywood was still a distant dream. At the time, Gene was just a former Marine veteran struggling to find his path. This made their marriage beautiful. While Gene took on all kinds of jobs to make ends meet, Fay provided him with the stability and emotional support he needed to succeed. After long and exhausting days, they spent their evenings together, discussing their shared hopes and sacrifices. Unfortunately, Gene was not content with such a simple life. He wanted more. This drive to achieve success pushed him to work harder. And when he finally reached success, he became too busy to spend time with his wife. As Gene achieved the success he had longed for, it came at the cost of leaving his wife to fend for herself. With each accomplishment, the distance between them grew larger. Suddenly, the very achievements that transformed Gene's life created a vast divide between him and Fay. He often worked late on film sets and traveled around the world for promotional tours. Fay, who was used to witnessing her husband's struggles, now had to adapt to a new challenge, being the wife of a Hollywood star. To many, she appeared to be a quiet and supportive spouse, but in reality, she was enduring a deeply painful period. Her husband, who was known for being meticulous and perfect in his work, increasingly neglected their family life. Gene admitted in several interviews that he wasn't always present as a father when his family needed him. He shared that his career consumed so much of his time that he barely had any left for his 3 children. While he lived with them, he was often emotionally distant, even when under the same roof. It wasn't just about being in the same room, his mind was frequently preoccupied with scripts, performances, and the enormous pressure of maintaining his position in the film industry. However, those who worked with him and those close to him began to notice odd behavior toward his wife and children. This led to speculation. While many believed he was too dedicated to his career to focus on his marriage, others suspected infidelity. These speculations stemmed mainly from the stereotypes often associated with Hollywood stars, the strain of separation creating temptations that could lead to infidelity. As Gene's fame grew, so did the rumors about him. Many in the industry began criticizing him for his blunt personality and his refusal to tolerate imperfection in his work. It was during this time that rumors of his alleged affairs started to spread. The more people admired his perfection at work, the more they believed he was neglecting his family. Yet, despite the accusations, Gene never became embroiled in any scandals, and it was ultimately confirmed that he had not been unfaithful to Fay. Still, many wondered how Fay felt, knowing that her husband was constantly surrounded by other women. They questioned whether it affected her. Fay, however, only noticed that her husband sometimes had a distant look in his eyes. If he had been unfaithful, nothing was ever proven. Fay chose not to address the rumors, maintaining her silence and dignity throughout. Fay refused to speak publicly about the rumors and kept everything private. Many believed she wanted to protect her family's privacy instead of airing personal issues publicly. Fay declined to engage in public disputes and never sought to confirm or deny any accusations. Some believed that Fay's silence stemmed from her quiet acceptance of her fate in marrying a famous man. Regardless, Gene didn't pay much attention to these matters. What mattered to him was the loyalty and discretion his wife maintained. Fay also cared deeply about ensuring their children led a normal life, unaffected by her marital struggles. She did everything she could to keep the marriage together, but after 3 decades, the burden of being married to a Hollywood star weighed heavily on her. Ultimately, they divorced in 1986. The news of their divorce disappointed many who had hoped the couple would overcome their challenges. The couple never publicly disclosed the reasons for their divorce, but beyond Gene's absences and suspicions of infidelity, many believed his heavy drinking also played a role in the decision. By this time, Gene was a well-established star with a thriving career, and the media took a particular interest in their divorce. Several reasons were speculated for their split, with the press fabricating stories about affairs, a midlife crisis, and personal betrayals. However, both Gene and Fay remained silent, avoiding interviews about the divorce. They were careful not to let legal battles over money or property destroy their lives. They handled the divorce discreetly and with dignity. Most importantly, they avoided false rumors and exaggerations from the media, knowing how damaging such stories could be to their careers. After the divorce, Gene lived alone for 5 years, focusing on his career. He used this time to produce some of the best films of his career, and the divorce didn't seem to affect him much during this period. 5 years later, Gene married a woman 30 years younger than him, Betsy Arakawa, a classical pianist. Gene cherished his second marriage because Betsy brought him the stability he needed after long, stressful days in Hollywood. Unlike his first marriage, which took place during a time when Gene was still finding his way in life, this second marriage came when Gene was more settled. His career was flourishing, and he had wealth and stability, allowing him to spend less time working. By this time, Gene had won 2 Academy Awards and achieved great success in his career. Gene continued acting until the early 2000s, after which he retired and turned to writing books with his new wife. They enjoyed a peaceful life in Santa Fe, New Mexico, far from the glitz of Hollywood. Gene may not have spent the rest of his life with Fay, but he always valued the moments they shared and never regretted their divorce. However, when asked why he remarried so quickly, Gene explained that, as a human being, he sought companionship and needed stability, something Betsy provided. Gene and Betsy continued their life together until Gene passed away in 2025. Number 3. The private life of Fay. After Gene Hackman passed away, many people anticipated that Fay would finally speak out about their marriage, especially since she had remained silent for so many years. People hoped she would share her experiences about their relationship, but Fay chose to stay quiet. She decided to honor the privacy they had shared and refrain from making any public statements. Fay's actions preserved Gene's dignity, ensuring that no false information about him was made public. Her decision was widely praised as a courageous choice. Many believed that she owed no one an explanation and that she had every right to protect her private life. Ultimately, one thing was clear about their marriage: Fay did everything she could to support Gene during the challenging years of his career. She tried her best to balance the demands of family life with the pressures Hollywood placed on them. Fay endured it all in silence, and even after Gene's death, she maintained that silence, cherishing the memories and choosing to respect the past they had shared. Fay did everything in her power to protect the privacy of their family, and her silence after Gene Hackman's death left many feeling unsettled because there were no answers to lingering questions about their marriage. While her silence sparked curiosity and speculation, it also earned her respect from many who believed she had made the right decision. In a world where personal stories are often exposed to the public, Fay's choice to remain silent demonstrated how deeply she valued the past they shared and her desire to protect those memories from harm. Fay's decision not to speak about their relationship was understandable, given that she had witnessed how Gene was often misrepresented or exaggerated by the media. After his passing, there was no one left to confirm or refute the rumors or truths about their relationship, as Gene was no longer there to defend himself. This made Fay's silence even more reasonable. If she spoke out, it could have led to misinformation being magnified, ultimately tarnishing Gene's reputation. Fay's actions highlighted her dignity and the respect she held for what they had gone through together. She refused to engage in public discussions and avoided giving the media any opportunity to twist her words or create baseless stories. While people continued to speculate about the relationship between Gene and Fay, her decision to remain silent created a protective barrier around their memories, shielding them from inaccuracies and false narratives. Although Fay never publicly discussed the challenges she and Gene faced during their marriage, her silence spoke volumes about her strength and determination as a woman who had spent her life protecting her family. While the public sought answers about their divorce and Gene's private life, Fay's choice to maintain her privacy stood as an example of resilience and wise decision-making when it came to family matters. Fay also demonstrated that, in a world that constantly pushes people into the spotlight, there are still those who choose to step back and safeguard the fundamental values of personal life. This decision made Fay a figure of admiration for many, especially those who understood the importance of respect and protecting family values beyond the glitz of Hollywood. Although Gene Hackman's life was marked by ups and downs, and his career reached great heights, his personal life was also affected by circumstances no one could have predicted. His journey from a shy boy to a Hollywood star was far from easy, and he faced challenges not only in his career but also in his family relationships. In the end, both Gene and Fay went their separate ways after their divorce. Gene found stability and happiness in his life with his second wife, Betsy Arakawa, while Fay chose to remain silent about their marriage and never revealed private details. Their story serves as a reminder of the importance of privacy in a world filled with judgment and curiosity. Gene Hackman will always be remembered for his legendary performances and esteemed acting career, while Fay Meltz will be seen as the woman who patiently and quietly supported him during the most challenging years of his life. Even though Gene Hackman passed away in 2025, his life story continues to captivate and inspire thoughts about the sacrifices made in one's personal life in pursuit of a career. His years in Hollywood left an indelible mark, but it was Fay Meltz's decision to live a private and silent life after his death that underscored the immense value of respect, discretion, and family protection in a world full of media storms. Fay Meltz's silence after Gene Hackman's death can be seen as an act of profound understanding and respect. Unlike many spouses of Hollywood stars who write books or seek media attention after divorce, Fay chose to live humbly and kept the story of their relationship private. This choice showed that she had learned to accept life's challenges without seeking attention and had devoted herself to her family and Gene's career. By staying silent, Fay not only protected their family's privacy but also demonstrated her absolute respect for what they had shared together. She refused to let rumors or gossip tarnish their shared past, and this decision preserved the family values she and Gene had built over the years. While people may continue to wonder about unanswered questions, Fay's actions helped maintain peace and avoided causing any further harm to Gene's legacy. Meanwhile, Gene Hackman's life after retiring from Hollywood proved that he was not only a remarkable actor but also a man in search of serenity and peace. After retiring in the early 2000s, Gene lived a quiet life focused on writing books, distancing himself from the glamour of Hollywood, and finding simplicity in Santa Fe, New Mexico. This showed that he had finally found the balance in life that he had always desired during his busy years in the film industry. Number 4. The lives of Gene Hackman's children. The lives of Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie, the three children of Gene Hackman and Fay Meltz, were far from the ordinary experiences that most children might have. While little public information is available about their private lives, the silence that the Hackman family maintained over the years reflects the unique challenges they likely faced growing up in a famous household. Gene Hackman's fame brought many advantages to his family, from financial stability to a comfortable life, but it also brought its share of complexities. Gene and Fay's children grew up in the glow of a Hollywood star, but they chose to live private lives, steering clear of public attention. This decision reflects their respect for family privacy and their way of coping with the difficulties and pressures of life under media scrutiny. Though their parents' fame and Gene's acclaimed career are widely recognized, his children have led quiet lives, avoiding unnecessary exposure to the public eye. This was undoubtedly not an easy choice. Growing up in a family where their father was a celebrated star, the Hackman children had to navigate the constant expectations and attention from the public. From a young age, they endured media scrutiny and likely had to protect themselves from external criticism or judgment. Yet, instead of seeking the spotlight or public attention, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie embraced discretion, staying far from the limelight and avoiding ostentation. They respected their family's privacy and refused to let their parents' fame overshadow their own lives. Their lives were also shaped by Gene Hackman's absence during their formative years. As Gene devoted much of his time to his acting career, he was often unable to be present in his children's lives. This absence left Gene out of many significant moments of their childhood and created an emotional void for his children. Fay, their mother, bore the responsibility of raising and caring for the children on her own while Gene was immersed in his work. Despite the challenges, Fay worked tirelessly to give her children a normal life, shielding them from the excessive influence of their father's fame. As a resilient, devoted, and strong mother, Fay ensured that her children would not carry the weight of their father's celebrity status. However, Gene's absence during their early years inevitably left a mark. His children may have felt the lack of a father figure during their upbringing. This likely influenced the relationship between Gene and his children, especially as Gene later acknowledged the importance of family and sought to make amends, particularly when his career had already reached its peak. As Gene became more aware of the significance of family and his shortcomings as a father, he tried to change. But mending the fractures that had formed over the years was no easy task. Gene Hackman was a man deeply committed to his work, dedicating much of his life to his acting career. Perhaps only toward the end of his life did he truly realize that a successful career could never replace the bonds and love of family. After stepping away from the chaos of Hollywood, Gene began spending more time with his wife and children. However, these changes came too late, and his relationships with his children were no longer what they once were. Time had created wounds that were difficult to heal. Even though Gene Hackman had a stellar career and achieved tremendous success, he was unable to fully enjoy it alongside his family. His relationships with his children became increasingly distant as his film projects consumed more of his time. In his later years, when he no longer worked on major films, Gene began to feel the absence of close family connections. But by the time he sought to rebuild those relationships, time was no longer on his side. While his children had grown up, the opportunities to reconnect with their father were limited. Gene Hackman ended his life in solitude, unable to fully repair the relationships within his family. The loneliness Gene Hackman experienced in his final years is a stark reminder of the personal sacrifices that come with a demanding career. As his acting career ceased to be his top priority, Gene sought peace in his personal life and realized that the most important aspects of life were family, love, and connection. However, by the time he understood this, the distance between him and his children had grown too vast, making reconciliation nearly impossible. Gene Hackman ended his life in solitude, with family relationships that could not be fully restored. While he maintained a close bond with his second wife, Betsy Arakawa, his family life with his children was deeply impacted by his absence during their most critical years. Fame and success could not make up for the emotional deficits in his family life, and ultimately, Gene Hackman had to face this reality. When he passed away in 2025, his death marked not only the loss of a cinematic legend but also the end of a long journey of searching for the true meaning of life alongside his loved ones. The relationship between Gene Hackman and his children serves as a profound lesson about the sacrifices we make in life and the importance of family. Despite his extraordinary success in acting, Gene could not make up for the gaps in his family relationships, and he ended his life with a sense of loneliness and regret. Gene Hackman's children, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie, demonstrated the strength and resilience to live their lives away from the public eye, choosing privacy over fame. Their story reflects the challenges of growing up in the shadow of a renowned Hollywood star and the importance of valuing family over the allure of the spotlight. Gene's legacy as an actor will continue to be celebrated, but his story also serves as a reminder of the irreplaceable significance of family connections. Number 5. The legacy of Gene Hackman. The legacy of Gene Hackman is one of the most enduring and cherished in Hollywood's cinematic history. He was not only one of the most talented actors of his time but also a figure who made significant contributions to the evolution of American cinema. The roles Hackman portrayed in iconic films such as The French Connection, Bonnie and Clyde, and Superman not only earned him prestigious awards but also cemented his legacy as one of the most respected actors of his generation. These performances left a profound impact on audiences and solidified Hackman's position as a cornerstone of the film industry. His acting prowess was widely recognized, not only by fans but also by his peers in the industry, establishing him as a true Hollywood icon. Throughout his career, Gene Hackman appeared in a wide array of major films, from 1960s and 1970s classics to the superhero movies of the 1980s. Each of his roles left an indelible mark, enriching the landscape of American cinema. His portrayal of Detective Jimmy "Popeye" Doyle in The French Connection earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor, marking a pinnacle in his career. Similarly, his performance in Bonnie and Clyde elevated him to the ranks of the most beloved actors of that era, as the film became a cinematic phenomenon. Hackman's ability to portray complex characters with depth and nuance showcased his extraordinary talent and versatility. Beyond his successful acting career, Gene Hackman was also admired as one of Hollywood's great personalities, known for his professionalism and dedication both on and off screen. While his career reached extraordinary heights, Hackman's personal life was never without its challenges. Despite his brilliance on the big screen, his relationships with his family, particularly with his former wife Fay Meltz, presented significant difficulties in his personal life. Gene Hackman's legacy is not just about his accolades or the iconic roles he played, but also about his impact on the film industry as a whole. His work continues to inspire actors, filmmakers, and audiences alike, ensuring his place as one of the most revered figures in the history of cinema. The story of Gene Hackman and Fay Meltz serves as a profound reminder of the importance of respect and safeguarding privacy in a world where fame and the media can sometimes intrude too deeply into the personal lives of public figures. Although their marriage did not last forever, their mutual respect and decision to keep their personal lives private helped preserve the precious memories they shared. Gene Hackman may not have been perfect in his family life, but his legacy in the film industry will forever remain an integral part of Hollywood's history. At the same time, Fay Meltz's silence and discretion regarding their private life helped protect family values and demonstrated maturity in facing life's challenges. They stand as a testament not only to an outstanding career but also to the significance of privacy and family in a world full of the temptations that come with fame.